When you're looking at the broad markets, whether you trade one security or multiple, it always helps to have perspective not on just one market, not on two, but on three. So in recent videos, I've been covering the index futures, like the E-mini S&P 500 futures, and their ETF counterpart. For example, for the S&P 500, that would be the SPY. Now I'm going to look back at the index futures versus their micro counterpart. So there's E-mini futures, and then there's micro E-mini futures. And if you're newer to trading, especially if you're newer to trading futures, it's good to know that you have these options because of the differences in these vehicles. Now, they'll have very similar charts. As you'll see, I'll go through price action, market timing, and momentum because I'm here already, and that's what I do. Let's dive in. So I'm going to keep my E-mini S&P chart here up on the right. Now, right now you can see this is a weekly time frame. I'm going to change it back to a daily, and I have been comparing that versus the SPY ETF. Now what I'm going to do is make this the micro contract. So MES Z25 at the moment, that's the comparable current front month for the micro futures. Now, you can look at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for all the differences between these contracts. One big difference from the trading perspective is that you need way less capital to take action on the MES, but you therefore don't make as much per point move, okay? So you can trade with a smaller account. It's good if you're sort of transitioning into futures or transitioning into short-term trading, if that's the style you're using. But again, let's just focus on the analysis here so you can make sure that you are always having that perspective. Now, one thing I want to show you is that the prices of these two securities are almost equal. They will not always be exactly the same, okay? So don't conflate the two, meaning don't look at a big ES chart, E-mini S&P, and think, oh, it's trading at whatever, it must be the exact same on the MES. No, there can be a difference. Now let's look at what they have in common. At the moment you can see that on the daily chart, both have very similar looking candlesticks. They have similar looking price action overall and momentum overall. Now, what I mean by momentum is that on a E-mini contract versus its micro counterpart, it will have a lot more similar movement than that E-mini versus the ETF, okay? So with this current market, it's still doing what I had been thinking might unfold the past couple days, kind of dancing around some consolidation levels, and it still needs to get above last Thursday's high, whether you look at the regular ES or the MES, and we may see that unfold this holiday week. So whether you're watching this video right now after I put it out there and are using this for market direction insights, or you're seeing it later, I want you to pay attention to the fact that these two work very similarly. So it just helps to have that perspective of knowing that you don't have to have the capital to trade the ESZ25 if that is beyond your reach, right? Because you shouldn't be trading with money you can't afford to lose. Like you can't trade with your rent money, your mortgage money, your grocery money, all right? You got to trade with something that if you lose it, it's not going to affect your day-to-day life. And the micro contracts might provide that option. Okay, now that I've given that intro, I'm going to move a little faster through the other four pairings. So now I'm going to switch this to the NQZ25, and I'm going to have the micro NQ on the other side as well. So this is MNQ Z25 versus regular NQ Z25. Now you can see here that same thing, right? Very similar looking candlesticks, similar prices, but not always exactly the same. And you can apply the same analysis if you'd like. So if I take this weekly NASDAQ E-mini chart and I change my micro one to weekly, and I want to see how they compare in terms of their recent retracements, okay? Now I'm going to do a different type of retracement. So on the first chart, I have one looking for support. Now I'm going to put one in looking for resistance on the MNQ. I'll put that same one back on the NQ as well. So again, if you are wanting to observe both of these markets to decide which to trade, then I would recommend doing the same analysis on each chart and then making sure they're back on the same time frame before you compare. So check this out. As of this moment, we have been journeying back towards the 50% retracement of the decline from October 30th to November 21st. I'm not saying that alone will be a sell area. I'm not saying the market will stop for a long time there, but I would not be surprised if there was a brief pause. It would be great from a bull's perspective if there wasn't very much of a pause there and just went back up through the November 20th high, okay? Because that's the key. That's the level we need on many of these broad markets to start up a bull party again. All right, now let's move on to the Dow. So this is YMZ25 for the mini and MYM Z25 for the micro. Now, you can see that the Dow is stronger than the other market broad indexes that has gone above its November 20th high, and it also didn't really get as weak as the others. It didn't break below those October 10th lows. So I've been saying this every time I'm looking at these related markets. So these levels, if you've been listening for the past few days, sound familiar. I get it. But that's the thing. That's how broad markets move, okay? Even the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, and Russell can have quite different components, and they're completely different indexes. They're still reflecting stock movement. So it's interesting to compare which may be leading the others versus not. So for the Dow, things are looking stronger. So where would I see it headed towards now? All right, I'm going to be taking a break from the charts for the next few days for Thanksgiving and Black Friday shopping and all that. But I would say that if this trend continues, it could head back towards the old low from November 12th. Okay, so about 48,000. We'll see what unfolds. So that's a look at the S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow E-mini versus micro E-mini futures. If you found value in this video, insights to help you with your short-term trading, or a look at how you compare a E-mini chart to a micro chart, or any other technical insights, go ahead and hit that like button, and I'll catch you in the next video.